Judges' dilemma: accountability and independence ought to be equally important for judges. The Lokpal's ruling that the High Court judges are amenable to its jurisdiction, and the Supreme Court's order staying it on its own motion raises more than a mere question of law. The issue concerns both the independence of the judiciary and its accountability. That the court, government law officers, and the senior advocates found the Lokpal's decision disturbing is understandable, as many believe that judicial independence will be undermined if judges of constitutional courts are made answerable to the Lokpal. As the court, government law officers, and senior advocates found the Lokpal's decision disturbing, is understandable, as many believe that judicial independence will be undermined if courts of the constitutional courts are made answerable to the Lokpal. Even if they fall under the ambit of the public servant under the Prevention of Corruption Act, the Lokpal views appear to be prima facie incorrect. There is nothing to suggest that Superior Court judges were ever considered to be under its remit. Last month, the Lokpal, headed by former Supreme Court Judge A.M. Khanwilkar, rejected a corruption complaint against the former CJI on the ground that the Lokpal Act 2013 did not concern apex court judges and that its reference to persons who are members of any body or authority created by an act of parliament cannot be applied to Supreme Court and institutions established by the Constitution. However, in respect of High Court judges, it said High Courts established by statutes creating the respective states were statutory bodies and their judges were persons with meaning of the section 14 of the Lokpal Act. The independence of the judiciary was foremost consideration when the court held K. Veeraswamy versus in court K. Veeraswamy versus Union of India that no case can be registered against them without consulting the CGI, even though it also said judges were public servants under the Prevention of Corruption Act. Based on this principle, the Lokpal has referred the complaint to the CJI. While the Lokpal ruling is set to be reviewed, the time may have come to address the issue of accountability in the rare event of a credible corruption charge arising against a judge. The matter is now dealt with the court through an in-house procedure indicated only if the Chief Justice of a High Court or the CJI or the President receives a complaint. If the charges appear true, asking the judges concerned to resign, denying them judicial work, or recommending them removal through Parliament are the options available. Some judges are transferred from High Court to one High Court to another, but whether the corruption charge is the reason is never disclosed. The court should see if the present mechanism is enough or it needs to be expanded to include credible follow-up actions such as an independent prosecution and its supervision. Both accountability and independence ought to be equally important for the judiciary. Delegated legislation from the center should not override states' plenary laws. With less than a week for the UGC's deadline to submit the feedback on its draft regulations on the appointment and promotion of the university teachers and the vice chancellors, states ruled by parties other than the BJP have raised up their opposition at a conclave in Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, and Karnataka challenged the regulation, saying that they would undermine the federal structure, diminish the powers of the state legislatures, and weaken the autonomy. They would undermine the federal structure, diminish the power of state legislatures, and weaken the autonomy of the state universities. This is second such conclave, with the previous meeting in Bengaluru, including the governments of the Himachal Pradesh and Jharkhand, and expressions of solidarity in Punjab. In Tamil Nadu and Kerala, the main opposition parties are also supportive of the stance of the ruling parties there. Some regional parties that belong to the BJP led NDA have reportedly expressed their concerns in private. A key concern is the UGC's proposal to play an enhanced role in the selection and appointment of the VCs of the state university. A key concern is the UGC's proposal to play an enhanced role in the selection and appointment of the state universities. Under the new regulations, the Search cum Selection Committee Under the new regulations, the Search cum Selection Committee will comprise nominees of the Chancellor, usually the Governor, UGC Chairman, and the University Senate or Syndicate or Senate, neatly cutting out state higher education departments which were responsible for setting these expert panel search cum selection committees will comprise nominees of the chancellor, governor, UGC chairman, university syndicate or senate. Under the new regulations, the search cum selection committee will comprise nominees of the chancellor, UGC chairman, university syndicate or senate. The Chancellor will appoint the VC from the list of the 3 to 5 names shortlisted by the selection committee. UGC Chairman M. Jagdish Kumar has argued that the proposed structure eliminates ambiguity and ensures a more transparent process. But states propose centralization of power, leaving many states universities leaderless, especially in Tamil Nadu. Apart from allegations that the new regulations will dilute academic standards, increase commercialization and politicization, and reduce access to higher education for the poor and disadvantaged students, the states have asked why they are being sidelined in university administration, even while they continue to bear most of the financial cost for the state run higher education. Beyond higher education, there is a larger constitutional issue of center state relations at stake. Can delegated legislation, such as rules and regulations framed up by the Union government and its agencies in the executive branch, can a central law override the provisions of a plenary state law passed by the state legislature? The opposing states plan to send a high level delegation to the Union Education Ministry and challenge the resolutions and regulations in court, indicating a political and legal escalation of the issue. The UGC must not ignore this plethora of concerned voices and should move anti-federal provisions from its draft before notifying the new regulations. Election aid allegations: the truth about US President Donald Trump's statement about 21 million USAID grant in a bid to get someone else get elected, citing the ostensible reason of boosting voter turnout in India, is shrouded in obscurity and opacity. As ordinary people, we do not understand the correlation between voter turnout and election results, proving advantageous or disadvantageous to parties. Of crucial importance is when and whom the money was given. This revelation could be Mr. Trump's way of ingratiating himself into good books of the government and of the day without slackening his harsh standoff on tariffs and immigration involving Indian nationals, apart from showing the Biden administration in a bad light. On this part, ruling party at the center seems to have accepted Mr. Trump's disclosure as a gospel truth and gone to town by saying that it has vindicated its leader's claim of a foreign-funded plot to prevent his return to power. Mr. Trump should share the details of the funding not just with government but also with the people. Foreign intervention in any form is deplorable, and the people have the right to know where the money went and who the beneficiaries are. As usual, while the Bharatiya Janata Party has blamed NGOs aligning with the Congress to influence the elections in India, the Congress has sought a white paper from the government detailing USAID funds to government and non-governmental institutions. Transparency is needed in this issue. The remarks made by Mr. Trump highlight the broader issue of foreign interference in our democracy. The people need to know the truth without any biased reporting. The BJP's crusade to wrest Delhi from the Aam Aadmi Party found success with the decade old AAP faltering on cadre strength. Yet AAP must be credited for winning the previous two Delhi elections by astounding margins and staying in power for more than 10 years. This was no mean achievement given an adversarial center and very bureaucratic lieutenant governor. Even more remarkable is that AAP won Punjab. AAP was the first to prop up the middle class with some free facilities. The BJP that had constantly trolled it for this would now elevate it to an obligation. It is the same formula that helped the BJP in Madhya Pradesh and in Maharashtra. A small outfit was ahead of times to emerge as a patron of the middle class. It will not be forgotten in a hurry. There should be stronger code of ethics for an online content and over the top streaming services. This code should prohibit the use of abusive language in programs broadcast live, dress code, and marking certain dialogues and scenes as adult content. Hosts should be role models and lead by example. Team India has begun its innings in the Champions Trophy. In style against Bangladesh, Shubman Gill's century helped the team to navigate itself to victory on a pitch that was unpredictable. His patient and meticulous batting performance showcases his caliber and pitches him as a player who can be relied upon in all three formats. As Team India continues its pursuit, this young batsman can definitely contribute a lot more. The US visit, viewed through industries business lens, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's brief and official working visit to the United States last week was significant in many ways, reiterating the strong bonds between the two nations and igniting a momentum in the economic relationship. The visit was replete with productive outcomes for the industry of both sides, with major announcements across trade, defense, technology, and energy. From the perspective of Indian industry, the initiatives announced are likely to help India itself integrate more deeply into the global supply chain, boost its technology and innovation attainments, and drive its participation in the defense and industrial sector. First, it is pivotal decision that there was an initiation of the first phase of bilateral trade agreement to reduce trade barriers and streamline regulatory processes. Such an agreement would encourage United States companies to invest in India, which would include the purposes of plugging India into the global supply chains. The $500 billion trade target by 2030 is ambitious but possible, potentially with sectoral sub-targets and easier cross-border procedures. Several measures have been taken to address tariffs on both sides. The mention of exporting industrial goods from US to India and labor-intensive products from India to US. The mention of exporting industrial goods. The mention of exporting industrial goods from US to India, industrial goods from US to India and labor intensive goods products from India to US as well as agricultural products highlight the exports from both sides. This is supported by the intention to encourage greenfield investments, including by Indian companies in the US. Thus, Confederation of Indian Industry had endorsed this target in its report in 2020 and believes that sectors such as IT, pharma, garments, and textiles, among several others, would gain from the joint commitment to Mission 500. While the US market is already relatively open to Indian exports, a well-structured BTA bilateral trade agreement would be mutually beneficial, particularly if it facilitates greater US investment and technology transfers to India. The second, the US India transforming the relationship utilizing strategic technology, transforming the relationship using strategic technology underscores the deepening strategic and technological partnership between the two nations. and opens further avenues for private sector cooperation within the governments and academia, with a range of sectors identified as defense, artificial intelligence, semiconductors, quantum computing, biotechnology, energy, and space. Trust will help foster closer innovation and technology partnerships with US tech giants. Additionally, the Indus Innovation Initiative aims to accelerate research and development in cutting edge sectors. India is emerging as a key player in the AI Indus economy, and the US India roadmap on AI infrastructure is expected to attract investments in data centers, computing power, and AI models. India is emerging a key player in the AI economy, and the US India roadmap on AI infrastructure is expected to attract investments in data centers, computing power, and AI models. This initiative could enhance funding opportunities for Indian startups in AI and encourage significant investment in areas such as fintech, health tech, agri-tech, and other developmental solutions, not just for India but also for Global South. Third, defense sector initiatives reinforce the India-US strategic partnership through expanded technology transfers, joint production, and industrial collaboration. Expanded technology transfers, joint production, and industrial collaboration. Expanded technology transfers, joint production, and industrial collaboration. The launch of the 10-year framework for US India Major Defense Partnership this year signifies the transformative shift in bilateral defense ties. Agreements were reached for the co-production of various systems which can promote indigenous manufacturing, skill development, economic growth. With the potential for offset clauses, Indian industry can gain hugely from the defense agreement announced during the visit. Fourth, energy cooperation was another critical area for discussion, with a focus on establishing long-term strategic linkages as India seeks to diversify in its energy sources. The leaders underscored the importance of increasing hydrocarbon production to enhance global energy stability and affordability. India's Union Budget 25-26 commits to collaborating the private sector with the private sector. India's 20 budget commits to collaborating with the private sector. India's budget commits to collaborating with the private sector on the development of small modular reactors, wherein US companies will play a vital role in advancing this capability. Given India's ambitious net zero targets, the US, with its vast natural reserves, can serve as a reliable energy supplier, strengthening India's energy security. Fifth, two countries have pledged to further the India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor through joint infrastructure projects, with both countries entering into the plurilateral arrangements in these regions. Infrastructure creation could be fast tracked, with possible spin offs for the participation of Indian industry in railways, roadways, smart cities, and industrial zones. The mention of undersea cables connecting India and the US would give impetus to India's digital economy and service exports as well. Sixth, on education, the leaders decided to boost higher educational institution cooperation, which includes setting up of campuses by leading US educational institutions in India. This would bring comfort to Indian students. Legal mobility is expected to be streamlined as well. Indian industry is committed to working with both governments and to maintain this momentum, advocating pro business policies and ensuring industry feedback and implementation. Advocating pro business policies and ensuring industry feedback and implementation. With a collaborative spirit and sustained reform, the benefits of this visit can be fully realized, positioning India's economy on a higher growth trajectory. In sum, Mr. Modi's US visit, viewed through industry's business lens, it is more than a diplomatic success. It is a blueprint for India to leverage global partnerships in becoming economic powerhouse, innovating prosperous in tandem with its strategic ally. converting court case backlogs into treasure troves. Every Chief Justice of India coming into office has a spectre of the legal system's backing, haunting him or her, as does every senior and concerned member of the higher judiciary. It is an ever present phenomena. Currently, the Supreme Court has 82,000 cases, High Courts over 62 lakh, lower courts nearly 5 crore. Nearly 50 lakh cases have been pending for more than 10 years. It is not that our judges are not hardworking or efficient. The great majority of them are, but we are a country with vast population that is used to thinking that courts will resolve disputes with whoever it may be, neighbor, shareholder, supplier, government, among others. We have one of the lowest judge to population ratios, 21 judges for every million citizens, and we rely on an adversarial system, which means that virtually every case sees multiple interim applications during its passage and plural appeals after the first passage is crossed. We also have shortages of infrastructure and capacity in terms of brick and mortar and finance and human resources. Just keeping the judiciary going on functional mode is a Herculean task, so daunting by itself that reform and restructure, while certainty the subject of well-meaning and subject some well thought out initiatives rarely gain prominence and push to make the system game changing. Data governance is one field where sensible classification will avoid repetitive engagement and make for quick disposal. Appointing retired judges to serve in ad hoc capacity does help ameliorate the situation to a limited extent. Wide perspective solutions would require a focus on large swaths of litigation. For example, the landlord tenant disputes and check bouncing cases to see whether tweaking the law can make it less than advantageous to have the matter taken to court. Compensatory or even punitive costs are commonly used abroad to deter frivolous or unnecessary litigation. We use them rarely since we prize access to justice and want to avoid roadblocks. The elephant in the room is, of course, the government. Being a player in nearly half of the disputes coming to courts, reform will be stunted unless it learns to litigate less and becomes more amenable to settlement options. There is hope on this latter score, but for now we move to another possibility for reform. This is the gigantic backlog, the enormous waiting room with its cavernous vaults and storage shelves and racks bustling with the claims for redress and justice of millions of citizens and causes. Long stay here is by itself denial of justice, and sometimes when the case is dusted for delivery to the judge's table, the cause is forgotten unless crucial, or the original proponents are in another world, hopefully a litigation free one. But it is this spectre of unfinished business, a, obvious to, a too obvious sign of failure of delivery that haunts judges. There is nothing good about a backlog, but there may be, unlikely as this may sound. Long stay here is by itself denial of justice, and sometimes when the case is dusted for delivery to the judge's table, the cause is forgotten or less crucial. But there may be, unlike as this may sound as first, this may be yet another instance of the problem masking a solution. Let us consider the process of mediation. Nascent and fledgling in the 1990s, mediation started to make its mark in the 2005 in India, primarily as an adjunct to the court sector, lawyer-led and judge-guided. It provided the opportunity for disputants to sit with a trained neutral in an atmosphere of confidentiality with no one imposing a result, just a bit of guidance and nudging to make the parties come up with options for a practicable, fair, and mutually acceptable solution. A focus on long-term interest, some legal realism, and dose of rather grim alternative realities to settlement propel the shift from attacking the other to jointly attacking the problem. The case comes from swath of civil and commercial, personal and property, matrimonial and mercantile disputes. Results are encouraging, so too is the ready adoption by the bar of this alternative, now cherished as appropriate method of dispute resolution as witnessed by thousands of willing mediators. It has now to move to a full-fledged professional avenues, drawing in for better usage from business, government and other disputants, and in the process providing gainful remuneration to practitioners of this new vocation. But certainly, mediation has caught on in the judicial system, and there is hardly any judge who does not speak of its merits and how it is the way to the future. So, to get to the point finally, for the judge to the backlog is a burden, for a mediator it is a treasure trove. In front of us, or rather hidden in the courtly dungeons, are the hundreds of cases which just have to be assigned to mediators to handle. And the mediators are there in sufficient numbers and backed by years of experience. All it needs is a simple system of primary identification of these cases, asking parties to choose their mediator or assigning them a trained and experienced one, and ensuring that a reasonable fee is paid for the service. When you compare the cost of mediating a case for the system and for the parties, it is a fraction of litigating that case. You do not need vast logistical and administrative infrastructure, and you are saved multiple hearings spread over indeterminable time spans. Most cases in mediation take just a handful of sessions. Complex ones take more, but this is nothing when compared to the boxes of litigative papers to deal with, and with the following above calendars. And when it works, the results achieved in mediation outweigh by far anything you can get in litigation. Not just a practical solution where both parties accept, but often restoration of relationships. So perhaps it is time we take the keys, recreation our chambers of horrors as the birthing place for mediators, and apply the principle by which mediators live and work, turning the problem into an opportunity for solution. A death in hostel and campus on the boil. On February 16, a female student from Nepal was found dead in her hostel room from Kalinga Institute of Industrial Technology in Bhubaneswar. When protests demanding justice for her grew on campus, the university evicted more than 500 Nepali students, prompting a response from the Nepali Prime Minister and triggering nearly a diplomatic crisis. The Mohan Manji government in Odisha has set up a high level committee chaired by the State Home Secretary. India, an emerging global powerhouse, says Modi. PM highlights the need for a world class governance and policy making, says the country needs to prepare leadership for emerging sectors like deep tech, space, biotech, and renewable energy. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday called India as an emerging global powerhouse that required world class leaders who can find solutions to global needs and complexities in every sector. At the same time, these leaders must keep the country's interest at the forefront for an accelerated growth momentum. At the School of Ultimate Leadership conclave, Mr. Modi said institutions like Seoul could prove to be game changers in this regard. He said India needed energetic and solution oriented leaders whose approach would be global, but an important part of their thinking would be local. We have to prepare such individuals, move ahead with an Indian mindset, understanding the international mindset, those who are always ready for strategic decision making, crisis management, and futuristic thinking. If you have to compete in international markets, in global institutions, we need such leaders who understand international business dynamics. In the times to come, leadership will not be limited to just power. Only those who have the capabilities of innovation and impact will be in the leadership roles. Individuals of the country will have to emerge according to the need. This need soul will be an institution that develops critical thinking, risk taking, and solution driven mindset in these individuals. In the times to come, such leaders will emerge from the institution who will be ready to work amidst disruptive changes. In the coming times, when we will promote a new leadership from diplomacy to tech innovation, then India's influence and impact will increase manifold in all these sectors. We have to make our governance and policy making world class. This will be possible when our policy makers, bureaucrats, and entrepreneurs are able to frame their policies by linking them with global best practices. We have to prepare leadership for many emerging sectors like deep tech, space, biotech, and renewables. Energy leadership has to be created for conventional sectors like sports, agriculture, manufacturing, and social service. We not only have to aspire the excellence in every sector, but also achieve it, he said, emphasizing the importance of building well-equipped human resource to achieve the goal of a developed India. When any country progresses, natural resources have their own role, but human resources have a bigger role than that. Pointing out that the Gujarat emerged as a top state during its leadership, driven by its human capital despite the lack of sufficient natural resources, stating that the bond forged by the shared purpose leads to the development of leadership and team spirit. The Prime Minister said, when we move forward with a common goal and collective effort, the results are extraordinary. NMC guidelines for disabled candidates arbitrary, says Supreme Court. A prescription such as both hands intact reeks of ableism and has no place in a statutory regulation. It propagates that persons with typical abilities with faculties similar to what the majority may have are somehow superior. Indian languages have always accepted and enriched each other without hostility. Modi. The shared heritage of Indian languages is a befitting reply to those trying to create divisions. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said the shared cultural heritage of the Indian languages would give a befitting reply to those making efforts to create divisions in the country in the name of languages. Embracing all divisions, all languages in our collective responsibility, he said. Indian languages had always accepted each other and enriched each other. There has been no hostility among Indian languages. Prime Minister's remarks come amid a war of words between the Tamil Nadu government over the implementation of NEP and the three language formula. India was one of the world's oldest living civilizations because it has consistently evolved, embraced ideas, and welcomed changes. India's vast linguistic diversity was a testament to this evolution and served as a fundamental basis for unity. He said the language embraced every idea. Marathi has borrowed literature from all Indian languages and has in return enriched them as well. That is why we are looking at every language in the country as mainstream language. We are encouraging education in all languages including Marathi. UPSIT submits charge sheets on Sambal violence. Supreme Court on Friday issued notice to the Center Uttar Pradesh government and the state Madrasa board on petition highlighting the plight of over 25,000 students of madrasas doing Fazil postgraduate and Kamil undergraduate courses which were declared unconstitutional by the top court in November 2024 in a judgment. USAID allegations deeply troubling Ministry of External Affairs. India China. In its post, the Doge said the US taxpayer dollars were going to be spent on the following items, all of which have been cancelled, including 468 million to the Consortium of Elections and Political Process Strengthening, including $22 million for inclusive and participatory political process in Moldova and 21 million for voter turnout in India. While Doge has not furnished any details of what this voter turnout funding was meant, it named CEPPS, funded by USAID, as the donor agency to India. Both the USAID and CEPPS websites have been taken down since the Doge ordered a freeze on USAID activities. India China worked hard to protect G20. MEA spokesperson Randhir Jaswal said the two leaders reviewed developments in a bilateral relationship since their last meeting in November. Stalin Pradhan's power language provision in a true federal concept union government should be happy that Tamil Nadu was fast progressing, but unfortunately it was refusing to allot funds which are rightfully to the state. Armies of India Pakistan hold talks. Indian army accused the Pakistani army of resorting to small arms firing on an Indian post. According to Pakistani newspaper Dawn, two Pakistani soldiers were injured in an unprovoked ceasefire violation by Indian troops in Deva and Baskar sectors. Center to put more critical minerals mines on auction following a cabinet approval of 16,300 crore National Critical Mineral Mission in January. National Critical Mineral Mission in January. India plans to auction many more mines in 2031, Union Minister said. He said the government has already auctioned 24 critical mineral blocks domestically. We aim to auction as many as critical mineral blocks possible by 2031. He underlined that public-private partnerships were critical in achieving these objectives. We must work as complementary partners and as a team to build a self-reliant India. The National Critical Mineral Mission envisages a separate investment of 18,000 crore by the public sector units. While developing new mines is a major focus. India's paucity of natural resources means it has to shore up initiatives to extract valuable minerals from the mine waste and reprocessing tailings. Concept of sexual equality must be part of the syllabus. Supreme Court. Moral and ethical training etiquette must be made part of the school syllabus. Justice Nagratna tells the union government. Judge says parents must stop discrimination between daughter and son. ED imposes penalty of 3 crore on the BBC World Service India. BBC allegedly did not reduce its FDI to 26%, violating the rules issued by Government of India. Five more cheetahs released into the Kuno National Park. Five more cheetahs were released into the wild from their enclosures at the Madhya Pradesh Kuno National Park on Friday, taking the total of big cats set free to 12. According to an official statement from the Kuno National Park, Namibian cheetah Jwala and her four 13-year-old cubs were released in the Khajuri forest area of the national park amid growing threats from drones, army to strengthen its air defense. Amid the Exponential growth in disruptive technologies such as drones, loitering munitions, and counter-drone systems, armies, air defenses gearing up to induct new fragmentation ammunition for its air defense guns, approximately 1,300 in service, while also pushing for the new systems to tackling evolving aerial threat. The army is also set to finalize a contract for the indigenously developed QRSAM quick reaction surface to a missile system within the next 4 to 5 months with a range of 30 kilometers. Quick response surface to a missile being developed by the DRDO has been a priority for the army. We are hoping to get the contract in place for 4 to 5 months. DRDO said once the contract is done, first of prototype model will be there in 12 months because we already trial evaluated the equipment, so in 18 months they would be able to produce and eventually having both wheeled and tracked configurations subsequently. In addition, an enhanced version of the Akash missile is set for an high altitude trials in next 45 days. Referring to the recent growth in the use of drones, especially in the war on Ukraine, Lieutenant General Tikuna said they did not know the quantity and quality they were going to face. We grew up in an environment where you could quantify air threat in terms of aircraft. Today, the quantification is becoming a challenge, and the quality of what is going to what this is going to carry is a bigger challenge. We have a huge revolution in military affairs, in warfare and disruptive technologies by drones, single drones, loiter munitions, smart drones. We have the whole capability manifesting. We really got disruptive warfare, air defense challenge. Lieutenant General Dikuna said airburst ammunition, laser and microwave weapons, and smart ammunitions were in various stages of procurement, while high-end defense systems were being upgraded, equipping existing L-70 and uh, Zu-23 air defense guns with airburst ammunition was a priority. A tender has already been floated. A request for proposal of successor gun to replace the L-70 and Zu-33 was already out for the 220 guns. Supreme Court issues notices to the YouTubers petition to quash the transfer of Mumbai FIR registered in Guwahati for promoting outside obscenity in India's got latent. RBI to infuse liquidity by $10 billion US-India swap deal. This move is expected to have short-term positive impact on rupee, mitigate pressure on the currency during periods of foreign fund outflows and prevent excessive volatility in exchange rate. To meet durable liquidity needs of the system, the RBI has decided to infuse rupee liquidity for greater duration through long-term US-India buy-sell swap action. Accordingly, the RBI will conduct a US-India buy-sell swap action of $10 billion for a tenure of 3 years. RBI cautions against reckless financialization. Macron's message to Trump: "You can't be weak in the face of Putin." Kenyan police officers plead not guilty of murdering Indian driver. Trump government cancels protection of 5 lakh Haitian migrants, and US trying to drive wedge between Russia and China. Belarus leader Trump says Zelensky's presence not important in talks to end war. Netanyahu vows revenge after Hamas truce violation. Senate confirms Kash Patel as FBI director. Nomination faced intense scrutiny from Democrats on Capitol Hill, who have warned that Mr. Patel is poised to use the position to seek retribution against Mr. Trump's perceived political enemies. Mini Arab Summit seeks united position on Gaza crisis. US Election aid allegations deeply troubling, says Ministry of External Affairs. US DOJ says it cancelled $21 million in US aid funds for voter turnout in India. MEA declines comment on whether the government is reviewing USAID's ongoing partnerships with multiple ministries. India-China worked harder to protect G20, Jaishankar. India and China have worked hard to preserve the G20 organization, and the External Affairs Minister during talks with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi on sidelines of G20 foreign ministers meeting in South Africa said in a half hour long meeting where they discussed bilateral developments including the situation along the line of actual control. Mr. Jaishankar pointed out that both countries are members of the G20, SCO and the BRICS. We should recognize that in a polarized global situation, our two countries have worked hard to preserve and protect the G20 as an institution. Mr. Jaishankar said he had hoped to take the forward talks on bilateral issues, including management of peace and tranquility along the border areas, as been discussed by the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. Such gatherings have provided an opportunity for our interaction when our ties were going through a difficult phase. Uttarakhand to tell High Court why it sought personal details to register live-in ties. The government submission came in a petition by a person named challenging the mandatory registration under the UCC. Women Aid Scheme criterion of 2.5 lakh income limit under discussion. A beneficiary not owning a four-wheeler and being a resident of Delhi for at least 10 years are the other criteria under deliberations. Madhya Pradesh, the heartland of infinite possibilities. Madhya Pradesh has consistently demonstrated leadership in enhancing its ease of doing business. Ecosystem recognizing its progressive reforms and efficient governance, the state has ranked among top achievers in the Business Reforms Action Plan BRAP 22 rankings. Top achievers. The, these initiatives underscore Madhya Pradesh commitment to fostering key friendly environment. Key achievements: Madhya Pradesh Jan Vishwas Amendment Provisions Bill 2024. Madhya Pradesh Jan Vishwas Amendment Provisions Bill 2024. Madhya Pradesh is the first state in the country to introduce the Jan Vishwas Amendment of Provisions 2024. Bill decriminalizes 64 provisions, reducing compliance burden, streamlining regulations, reducing 2,400 compliances across 37 departments, repealed 920 outdated acts and decriminalized 67 provisions, facilitating business operations, industry approvals, granted exceptions to over 340 industries from 22 approval inspections for 3 years, deemed approval, processed 11 lakh applications within 30 days, with 20,000 applications deemed approved under the Start Your Business in 30 Days initiative. GeoPortal for infrastructure planning. The state's GeoPortal gateway provides 250 GIS layers, satellite imagery, and tools for sectors like environment, agriculture, disaster management. Regional Industry Conclave, launched by the Honorable Chief Minister, and Cyber Tehsil enables paperless online land mutation and record correction. Labor case management system. Madhya Pradesh is the first state in the country to implement labor case management system for resolution of labor related disputes. Time optimization reduced the land allotment process from 59 to 29 days, and dedicated single window system operates a robust single window system offering 54 services. MSME growth 1.65 million MSMEs operating across manufacturing, 5,000 startups registered under the NP startup policy. So that's all for today. See you in the next one.